Welcome to this explainer. If you were a 1920s Indian freedom fighter, April 1919 in Amritsar wasn't just another tragedy. It was the exact moment the illusion of benevolent British rule shattered completely forever. This was the turning point that ignited a fierce, literally unstoppable demand for true independence, permanently altering the course of the British Empire. Picture this. It's a sweltering hot April evening in an enclosed, barren park called Jallianwala Bagh. Thousands of ordinary Indians are gathered there. Suddenly, without a single word of warning, British troops block the only exits and just open fire on the trapped families, worshippers, and peaceful protesters. People are scrambling, trying to clamber over these high walls or even throwing themselves into a deep well just to escape the relentless bullets. It is a scene of absolute, calculated devastation. So, to truly understand this tragedy and the fierce Indian defiance that followed it, we have to ask ourselves, how did this ultimate betrayal even happen? How did a gathering in a city park end in one of the most infamous massacres of the 20th century?
Part 1, Context and the Rowlatt Act.
Okay, so let's rewind to right after the First World War. The people of Punjab had actually contributed heavily to the war effort, and they expected some measure of respect and self-governance in return. But instead, they were hit with the Rowlatt Act, universally despised as the Black Act. Passed in March 1919, this law allowed the British to arrest Indians on mere suspicion and throw them in jail without a trial for up to 2 years. No legal representation, zero chance for appeal. This absolutely draconian law immediately triggered immense anger and brought Mahatma Gandhi onto the scene, with his powerful, non-violent anti-Rowlatt Satyagraha.
Part 2, Escalation in Amritsar.
This defiance spread like wildfire. We started seeing unprecedented Hindu-Muslim-Sikh unity forming right in the streets, which completely terrified the British administration. It brought back haunting memories of the 1857 uprising for them. But this peaceful unity fractured incredibly fast, over just 4 days. On April 9th, there was a beautiful Ram Navami procession showcasing this solidarity. But the very next day, April 10th, the British panicked. They invited 2 beloved local leaders, Dr. Kitchlew and Dr. Satyapal, to a meeting under the total guise of dialogue, and then arrested them by trickery. This deceit absolutely shocked the public, and when their followers went to demand their release, they clashed with police, who then opened fire. That initial police firing was the breaking point. 20 Indian protesters died right there. The crowds, who were already tense and now deeply aggrieved, just erupted. They retaliated fiercely, rioting and burning down British buildings. During all this chaos, 5 British officers were killed, and a British missionary named Marcella Sherwood was assaulted in the street. Now, this loss of British life brought the absolute brutal wrath of the British Raj crashing down. The empire decided Amritsar needed to be punished.
Part 3, the Jallianwala Bagh Massacre.
To re-establish absolute control, Brigadier General Reginald Dyer steps in. Now, despite being born in India and speaking fluent Urdu, his cruelty was meticulously calculated. On April 13th, as thousands gathered peacefully for the Baisakhi festival, Dyer made his move. Step 1. He deliberately chose 90 Baluchi and Gurkha soldiers. These were troops from outside the region with zero local sympathies for the Punjabis. Step 2. He completely blocked the incredibly narrow main entry and exit point. And Step 3. He ordered his men to open fire on the trapped crowd. He even callously admitted later on that if the alley had been wide enough, he would have driven armored vehicles right inside and shot at the people with those too. 11. That is the number of agonizing minutes the relentless firing lasted. 11 minutes of continuous, rapid shooting into a trapped, unarmed crowd. With only 3 to 4 tiny, narrow gullies serving as exits, there was quite literally nowhere to run. People bled to death right there on the dust. For an emerging freedom fighter at that time, these 11 minutes were the ultimate, undeniable unmasking of the empire's true face. And of course, the imperial narrative tried desperately to minimize the atrocity. British official figures claimed around 300 dead, while the Indian National Congress reported a staggering 1,500 lives lost. That is a massive discrepancy, completely detached from the catastrophic reality experienced by the victims on the ground. A full century later, descendants of the victims are actually still fighting just to get official martyr status for those who perished. Part 4. The Empire's Turning Point. Following the bloodshed, instead of trying to calm tensions, the British imposed unbelievably strict martial law. Indians were subjected to humiliating punishments, like being forced to crawl on their bellies through the very street where the missionary was assaulted. And they physically had to salute every single white person they saw. This explicit attempt to crush the Indian spirit was mirrored by a staggering disparity in the aftermath. General Dyer was forced to step down, sure, yet many back in England viewed him as a hero, raising a massive £26,000 for his retirement. Meanwhile, the families of the slain Indian victims, they were handed a meager 500 rupees by the government. It was a two-tiered system of profound injustice that radicalized an entire generation.
But here's the thing. Far from crushing the resistance, this massacre became the ultimate catalyst for the freedom movement. For a 1920s Indian freedom fighter, Jallianwala Bagh proved without a doubt that they could never be equal citizens under British rule. The great poet Rabindranath Tagore actually returned his knighthood in protest. A year later, Mahatma Gandhi launched the massive non-cooperation movement. Jallianwala Bagh became the eternal symbol of defiance. It marked the undeniable beginning of the end for the British Empire in India.
Decades later, the tragedy remains a profound and painful scar. In 1997, Her Majesty the Queen formally recognized it before her visit to the site, calling it a distressing example of past history and expressing deep regret for the suffering caused. It's a stark acknowledgement of a history that can never be erased, but absolutely must be confronted. Today, the UK and India share a relationship defined by collaboration, partnership, and an enormous diaspora connection. But to wrap up this explainer, we really have to ask ourselves, how does remembering the profound defiance and heartbreaking tragedy of Jallianwala Bagh continue to shape our modern world? How does a nation heal from such a deep wound while turning that very pain into the foundation of its independence? It's a powerful reminder of the true cost of freedom and something to carry with you long after we're done here today. Thanks so much for joining me.